This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 198 of Skywalking through Neverland.
And I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but...
And for the record, I love your dude voice.
Wait a minute, Barbie was based on what?
I doubt many people were trying to track down lawyers.
He was big in 1977 through 1977.
Oh, this is the kind of thing I'm going to be mad at myself for the rest of my life.
You know what? I want Yoda to endorse Cup of Noodles.
Yeah. The whole category, Star Wars at Disney parks.
See, kids, you can learn something from watching Netflix docu-series.
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland.
Here we go.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets love.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Neverland that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! Hey, do you get nostalgic when talking about your favorite childhood toy? And did you just binge watch the Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us? Well, if your answer is a resounding yes, then we want to welcome you to Skywalking through Neverland. We are your podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars and Disney fandom. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife, Sarah.
Happy New Year, Skywalkers! This is our first episode of 2018.
Yeah, we are now going into our 5th year of Skywalking through Neverland.
Yeah, 5 years. In podcasting terms, that's pretty good. All right, well, we want to give a warm and fuzzy Wookiee hug to our family of Skywalkers, and thank you guys for listening to the show every week. Thank you for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, and also every week we Facebook Live and we YouTube Live our show. And so thank you all for those of you joining us live right now. So yay, we see Reynold Gobiel, Dustin Whalen, Rebecca Whitebrock, Margaret Mays.
It's always fun talking to the people before we start recording. The discussions that come up.
Yeah. And Mike Moore says, love those Last Jedi shirts.
Oh.
Me and my girlfriend have the same ones. Yay!
Yeah, you know what? These shirts came with these pants. they're pajama pants.
They're amazing.
But you can wear them out, which a lot of people do.
Right. But they're comfy. They're super comfy.
Yeah.
So
big shout out to my sister Lisa who got these for us for Christmas.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, you guys, we love when you tweet at us while you are listening. We are at Skywalking Pod. Please share your hashtag Skywalker selfie. So stop what you're doing, whatever you're doing, and take a selfie with your phone of whatever you're doing while you're listening to us, because we love to see that. We've gotten people from Australia, from Canada, from the US, all over, and you guys are doing so many different things while you listen, and we love that.
Now, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on January the 9th, 2018.
Wow,
Boy,
yay!
that sounds so weird saying that out loud. 2018. Wow. Now, on this particular date, back in 1987, Star Tours opened at Disneyland.
Yay.
Now, if you want to hear some fascinating, never-heard-before stories about the making of Star Tours, go back to our episode 152 titled Lightspeed to Endor, where we spoke with former Imagineer Mark Eads, who was the media producer and the one who brought Pee Wee Herman in to voice Captain Rex.
Yeah, he was the media producer of Star Tours before it opened. I mean, he was essential in creating this ride.
Do you recall when Star Tours opened 31 years ago on this date?
Unfortunately, no, because, I grew up in Austin, Texas, so I wasn't as tuned in to what was happening at the Disney parks, at all. In fact, the first time I went to a Disney park was 1987, but it was at Walt Disney World,
Gotcha.
unfortunately.
For me, Star Tours was all over the Bantha Tracks newsletter from the Star Wars fan club, and ABC had done a big 2-hour special all around Star Tours.
Okay.
And that's where you got the rapping C-3PO.
My name, is C-3PO. Rapping about space, the new place to go. You can eat all you want and you won't gain a pound because there isn't any weight here like back on the ground. We travel very fast near the speed of light. You can leave in the morning and get home last night. His name is R2, but you'll never hear him rap. His inventor forgot to give him lips that flap. He'll greet you all and turn on his charms. He'd give you a hug if he had some arms. There's no gravity when you're out in space. It doesn't pull you down or hold you in place. You can run real fast, your feet will fly. You'll be so light, you can jump sky high. New worlds open up when you're out that far. And all you've got to do is wish upon a star.
Okay.
So I was very aware of it. And for me, it was the last grasp of Star Wars fandom before it took its hibernation for the next 5 years.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to get there until May when I was here for Celebration Zero.
Now, did Star Tours open at Disneyland first?
Yes.
And then open at... Okay.
Yes.
So when I was 12 years old to Walt Disney World, I did ride Star Tours, and I remember seeing the giant AT-AT. I went to Walt Disney World at that point. So that was my first encounter with Star Tours, and I was super excited.
I knew we were going to have a period of time where there wasn't going to be Star Wars, so you would just grasp onto everything that you could, like the Ewoks and Droids Adventure Hour. They had produced these Star Wars 3D comics, and you would just grab at anything.
Okay.
Just hoping that it'd be enough to take you over until 1991's Heir to the Empire. But suffice to say, it was great. It was fantastic knowing that we had something like Star Tours.
That's interesting you say that there was no dark time for me of Star Wars because I got into it in the dark times. So I couldn't compare it to when it was big.
Well, lucky for you, because for someone like me,
right,
it was torture.
Yeah,
because that was it. And we didn't know if it was ever going to return.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucas had issued a statement saying, no, not going to do the next 3. And I thought, wait a minute, 3?
Oh, sad.
You mean 9, right?
Right? Yeah, because he originally said 12.
Yeah. And then he went back and said, no, I said 9. No, I said 6. No, I'm not going to do any more. I recall being in a comic book shop and opening up a magazine and reading that statement that he wasn't going to do the next 3 films. It was like someone just took a blowtorch to my head.
Oh.
It was like losing a family member. It was very sad. And I was in New York with a friend, and it just destroyed my vacation. He kept saying, Rich, what's wrong? And I didn't even want to talk about it.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is. But luckily, 1991 rolled around. We got Heir to the Empire, and here it is, 2018. And it's not slowing down.
No.
No. If you saw let's say, rash of merchandise, like paper towels,
yes,
with Last Jedi,
oh my God,
prints on them, we know it's not going to slow down anytime soon.
And Dole salad bags. I love it.
Yeah, Dustin Whalen on YouTube says, don't forget about the Star Tours special hosted by Gil Gerard and Ernie Reyes Jr. That was the special I was talking about, the 2-hour special promoting Star Tours.
Okay, nice.
All right, with that, let's check in with the time and then move on to the big show.
Okay.
So, Minnie, what time is it? Gotta check in.
It's 11:25. Good morning.
Oh.
All right, with that, let's tell everyone what's coming up on this big super show.
Okay,
now,
Richard, I'm going to have you tell everyone because I know you are super excited about this.
All right, now everyone, raise your hand if you love a good docu-series about the toys you grew up with. Well, if your hand shot up, then you will love our upcoming conversation with Brian Volk-Weiss about his Netflix docu-series, The Toys That Made Us. Even if vintage toys is not your thing, you will be fully invested in the behind-the-scenes stories of how these toys became classics. It's kind of like the series on VH1, Behind the Music.
Yes.
How many times did I watch the special on Leif Garrett?
Who's that?
He was big in 1977 through 1977.
Who is that?
He was a teen pop star who just did cover songs.
Oh, boy.
So he did like 3 songs, and that was it.
Aw.
Right, but how many times did I watch that special? Because it was an interesting story.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like this. If vintage toys is not your thing, you'll just love the behind-the-scenes stories.
Oh, yeah, the stories. Well, and we talked with Brian Volk-Weiss, who kind of explained why he chose the 4 toy groups that he chose, and a lot of the reason was because they had good stories. So, you'll love it.
All right. Now, with that, we also have shout-outs, another long overdue Skywalker of the Week, and Things We Want to Share. All right, now, before we get into all that, while we were doing some research on our discussion with Brian Volk-Weiss, we were looking up vintage commercials and came across this one. It's not too vintage, having come out in 2011, but let's play it and see if you can guess what they are advertising.
Always in motion is the future. Believe in your own power. You must. May the Force be with Japan. Droid Japan. Cup noodle.
Now, if you guess the college student favorite cup of noodles, then you are either very fluent in Japanese, or you thought, what is the last thing I would expect Yoda, the most powerful Jedi Master, teacher of Luke Skywalker, to endorse? Well, maybe that is what he was serving Luke on Dagobah.
Yeah, cup of noodles with some chunks of meat.
Root leaf I cook.
Oh, but there's chunks of meat in there too.
Oh, maybe that's something they can serve on Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Along with green milk from a Thala siren teat.
Yes. Now, Lucas has always been very protective about his characters.
Okay.
What led him to think, I want Yoda to endorse cup of noodles?
Money?
That or he knew that he'd be selling to Disney in a year. I thought, you know what? Let's see what they can do with this. Let's see how far down the trenches they can bury this one.
Wow.
Maybe when Yoda was in college, that's what he ate. All right, with that, don't see how we can take that any further.
No.
So let's move on to Things We Want to Share.
Things we want to share. Things we want to share. Things we want to share.
All right, so you had something you wanted to share first before we get to mine?
Yes, this is episode 198 that we're doing right now. Guess what's coming up in 2 more episodes? Hold on, do the math.
Wait.
Episode
200.
200.
Wow.
So we got some things in the works that we want to do, but we want to hear from you Skywalkers. If there's any ideas that you have, maybe a new direction or something.
Ideas for a segment.
Yeah, something we've done in the past that you want to see us come back with.
Oh, yeah.
You know, anything. We want to hear from the Skywalkers. We should put this on Facebook as well.
We'll put this on Facebook, probably in our Facebook group, but also you can email us, share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com.
Because you Skywalkers always have such great ideas.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
All right, now, Sarah, you have something you want to share.
I do. Okay, so we are going to go to the Disney Parks blog. Now, before we get into the main story here, I want to note a change on the Disney Parks blog homepage itself. When I was looking up this article to go back to it this morning, I noticed this. So, formerly on the front page, it has been divided into these categories: the Disneyland Resort, the Walt Disney World Resort, Disney Dining, and Disney at Sea. So you can easily go to whatever blog post you want. Well, now the Disney at Sea has been replaced by another category. Any guesses as to what this is?
Something Star Wars related?
Yeah, the whole category, Star Wars at Disney Parks, on the front page of the Disney Parks blog. So, to me, this is just a testament to how big a property Star Wars is, and, how the Walt Disney Company is ranking it among all their IPs.
Wow, clearly it is the biggest IP of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good business decision.
Yeah, so it's super cool. So head to the Disney Parks blog, and everything Star Wars you want to know is right under that category.
So give us an example. What are some of the things they are advertising?
Okay, well, they have blog posts on, when you hit on that Star Wars at Disney Parks, blog posts pop up such as Star Wars Galaxy's Edge merchandise unveiled, top 10 ways to experience Star Wars Day at Sea. They have Warwick Davis announced as a Star Wars Day at Sea guest presenter. That's fun.
Oh, you know
also, the Secrets of the Empire hyper-reality experience.
Oh.
Now at Disney Springs.
Which we'll be doing on my birthday, January 16th.
Exactly.
But Star Wars Day at Sea, when is that?
Okay. Well, Star Wars Day at Sea happens on several different cruises.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Warwick Davis, Warwick
Davis is announced for a particular cruise.
When will he be there?
March 17th through 24th. On a Disney fantasy sailing over, I think it sails out of Cape Canaveral.
Well, for anyone missing Star Wars weekends, it's back.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, Star Wars. Well, this is that Star Wars Day at Sea.
Yeah.
On the Disney Cruise Line. You know, where there's one day during a 7-night cruise.
So instead of being at the Walt Disney World Park, it's now on a ship.
Yeah.
And instead of costing $120 to get in, it costs a couple of $1,000s to get in.
It's true. Very, very true. Ashley Eckstein will be on the final sailing April 14th through 21st.
So this isn't just a Star Wars Day at Sea. This is a whole week.
No.
Yeah?
No. I know they're showing, those are the sailing dates.
Oh, okay.
But the Star Wars Day although they have made each year, they make the Star Wars Day at Sea sailing even more Star Wars.
Okay. So if you're looking at the Disney Park blog, it will have a week range, but there's only one day in that week.
That is full Star Wars. So
yeah.
like when we talked with the Chickafence about their Star Wars Day at Sea, they've upped it a little bit more, but I know that there's one specific day where they have Star Wars music throughout the ship.
But why just do a day?
I know.
Why not do 3 days at least?
I know.
Or just cut to the chase. Make it a Star Wars cruise. You know they're going to get there. You know they're going to get there eventually. So why not just jump the gun on this?
So basically, it's going to be cool. Those of you who are actually doing the cruise. It sounds really fun. But that is not what I wanted to share, Richard.
No, we just took a tangential tangent.
I think we took a wrong turn.
Wrong turn.
All right, here we go. On to the news. The Run Disney news.
Run Disney news.
Run Disney news. Now, last we heard, all the Run Disney races at the Disneyland Resort for 2018 and possibly beyond have been canceled.
Oh, darn.
Due to construction.
Yeah, that means we can't race in the frigid California morning air.
No, we can't. So, what does this mean, though? Lots of people were asking, what does this mean for the various challenges?
We get to sleep in?
Including when people run at Walt Disney World and then they run at Disneyland, they get the coast-to-coast medal, you know? Mm-hmm. And then for the Star Wars race, it's the Kessel Run medal, which is that awesome medal that is the Millennium Falcon. It's the best Disney medal ever made. Okay, well, luckily we have that one. But
we have two.
I know. But for those people who had signed up for this year's 2018
conflict.
Star Wars Half Marathon, that didn't happen. Yeah, exactly. So, on January 3rd, we got our answer as to what's to happen with these challenges. There will be a 2018 Star Wars virtual half marathon race. Okay.
Whatever gets you there.
It's true. Okay, so I actually think this is a cool idea. You can't do the Disneyland Resort Run, but starting on January 3rd through February 28th, you can actually register for a virtual race at runDisney.com. And then you can complete 13.1 miles in your neighborhood, on a treadmill, wherever you like to run by March 31st to earn your medal. And they have a new medal specifically for this race. Look at this.
Oh, it's Poe Dameron.
Is it? Oh, it is Poe. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, so it's a medal. It's like kind of a light blue background with Poe in his nice orange popping out of there, orange and black popping out of the light blue.
There's a very, very nice orange and black.
Yes. And it says 2018 Virtual Half Marathon. With the 13.1. So just so you know, you can actually register for this race and you get this medal, you get a downloadable race bib and a downloadable finisher certificate, and you get the option to be eligible for the Kessel Run medal if you are running the 2018 Dark Side Half Marathon at Walt Disney World in April.
All right, so let me make sure I'm understanding this.
Okay.
You've got to complete the light side over here.
Wherever you are.
Okay. You have until March 31st.
Right, exactly. To submit your time or something. I don't know how they actually do. I've actually never done a virtual race. So those of you who have, you can enlighten me, but I'm sure you have to send in your time.
But how much time do you get to complete the 13.1 miles?
You have to complete it by March 31st. So you don't have to run 13.1 miles at once. They said you could split it up. Yeah.
Oh my God, we can do this.
I know.
We can knock it out within 2 weeks.
Okay. Yes, I know. So Christopher Marino says he can't wait to take pictures with virtual characters.
Wow. Why wasn't every race like this?
I know. And instead of being $150 or whatever a half marathon is now, a Run Disney half marathon, it is $59 for the virtual race or $69 if you want to be eligible for the Kessel Run medal if you're running the Walt Disney World Dark Side Half Marathon.
All right, so it's $59 if you want that Poe Dameron medal.
Exactly. I don't know if we both... I think we should just one of us do it so we get the medal, because you gotta get the medal, right?
Yeah, $59 for that medal?
Yeah.
I want the medal, but...
Well, okay.
Can we check eBay next week?
Can I sweeten the deal? Let me sweeten the deal for you.
All right.
As part of the registration process, participants will have the opportunity to make a donation to the Starlight Children's Foundation on behalf of Star Wars Force for Change. So you can add a little bit to that $59 and actually contribute to charity to one of our favorite charities.
Why don't we just donate $59 to the Starlight Children's Foundation?
Well, that's true too. Well,
you don't get the medal, but you get a good sense of self.
Right, but Run Disney also will make an independent donation to Star Wars Children's Foundation in honor of the Star Wars Virtual Half Marathon. So basically, instead of having the half marathon at Disneyland Resort, they will be donating some of their budget, I guess, to Starlight Children's Foundation.
All right, Skywalkers, how do we feel about this? I'm kind of on the fence.
About what?
It's a virtual race.
Right.
Which is a good idea because they promise something and they have to deliver.
Right.
Getting the Kessel Run medal and all.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just going to be doing the light side, it's going to pretty much cost you $59 to get that medal.
Yeah, I know. But if you're a completionist, it's good for those people.
Right.
And also, I think it's good because I know there were many people, in fact, several of our Skywalkers, including like Samir, he was looking forward to the 2018 race. There was another, I know there were some people who this was the first year they were going to be able to do the Kessel Run, and they were very upset that the Star Wars Lightside Half Marathon was canceled here at Disneyland Resort.
I agree. They had to do something.
Yeah.
Or you'd have a lot of irate fans. It's like when a series is canceled before there's a resolution. You get a lot of really ticked off fans.
Exactly. So this is a way to appease those fans. And specifically because the Lightside Half Marathon was, coming up so quickly and was the first race to be canceled.
Right.
Whereas people had already made plans to fly and plans to come to the resort. Whereas the other races, they didn't even have the registration open for them. So no one could plan for them.
So if people had already planned for this and it was
Yeah.
already something set up, they could have figured out a way to still have the marathon go on.
How? No, they couldn't because they didn't get permission from the city.
Well, figure something out. Run around the park a couple of times.
Well, this is what they figured out. It's the virtual race.
I know. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I know, but I think it's a good idea, and I actually hope they continue this virtual running series for like the Tinkerbell half.
Yeah, me too. This is much easier than getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
And then, well, what are they going to do about the Avengers half marathon?
Another virtual race.
Well, that doesn't happen at Walt Disney World. So unless they're going to add that race over there, they don't have an Avengers themed race.
Unless they just keep on doing these virtual races.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of money for a medal. They really need some more perks. Like when you're running the race, you get the photo ops, you get those little snack packs, you get a lot of bonuses. I need to see more of those bonuses in the virtual race before, for me, it becomes worth it.
Okay. Well, here we have Justin Brady weighing in. He says, I did a virtual race with Nike a few years ago, and I was motivated to do it. I did it one day as I felt like I had to earn the shirt they gave out. That makes sense. And then also...
That's another good point right there.
Yeah.
For the Run Disney races, we got all those cool shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Will we get the...
No, they did not say shirts.
All right.
But they do say if you do pay the $69 one for the opportunity for the Kessel Run, you actually get some kind of Star Wars, an extra thing beyond the finisher medal and beyond the Kessel Run medal. You get like a Star Wars commemorative item, is what they said. They didn't mention what it was.
Now, I've always said I didn't want to know how much the actual Disney Star Wars runs were.
Oh, yeah.
The half marathons.
Yeah.
I still don't want to know. I always told you just to go out and do it and don't tell me how much it is. But is it comparable to those prices there?
No, it's like twice that price.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where you get the shirt, you get the run, you get the character photo ops. So it makes sense that would be.
Yeah, I can
like
understand
twice. No,
but still,
it's a lot.
I understand it, but still, if I'm going to be paying that much money, I just want a little bit more.
If we do it, we just get one, and then we both run together the 13.1 miles, and then we get that one medal, and we can put it on our medal rack.
You know what? Let's just wrap this up by...
So then it becomes $30 per person.
By me asking you, is this already a done deal? Am I spinning my wheels here? Or has the decision been made?
Not yet.
All right, so I think the decision has already been made. So, you know what? Anything else I have to say is mootless.
Okay. Well, that is what I wanted to share, and I think it's interesting that that's what Run Disney has decided to do in light of the cancellations of the Disneyland resort. So, Skywalkers, what do you think? Please tweet at us at SkywalkingPod, or, let us know. Let us know what you think about these virtual races. Do you take Richard's side that it's a little weird, or do you take my side that it's kind of a cool thing that they're doing to at least appease some of the fans?
It's weird and pricey. All right, with that, let's now have some fun with our special guest, Brian Volk-Weiss, and we're going to hear all about that awesome docu-series on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us, and we'll get a sneak preview of the second 4 episodes coming in the next 3 or 4 months.
It's an 8-part documentary series about the toys that we all know. Plastic creations that last for generations and we still cannot let go. Little molded figures that gave us big dreams will go back in time and behind the scenes. It's the toys that made us. The toys that made us is here.
There are certain topics that really touch that nostalgic nerve in a very big way. And when you start talking toys, well, you are guaranteed to have a great discussion.
Recently, Netflix released a 4-part docu-series called The Toys That Made Us, and it has sparked so many trips down memory lane. Here with us now is the creator of the series, Brian Volk-Weiss.
Hey, Brian!
Hi, how are you?
We are excited to talk with you. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
excited to talk with you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on and talking nostalgic toys, one of my favorite topics of all time. Now, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but this series really brought me back to my childhood. How personal was this series to you?
I mean, I've produced a couple dozen shows, at least, maybe 3 dozen. It is, without a doubt, the most personal show I've ever done. My collection, basically the beginnings of my collection were literally the toys that I played with as like a 5-year-old. So there could be no more personal show. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have then a favorite toy from your childhood that maybe you keep in your office or your home or took on set with you?
I have a lot of favorite toys from when I was a kid that unfortunately did not make it to the current period of my life. But when I was a kid, easily the answer would be the Millennium Falcon, which I got in between A New Hope and Empire. My current toy that I have from when I was a kid is also the Millennium Falcon, but it's the little die-cast version. So that's one of the oldest toys in the collection. And that Millennium Falcon and a whole bunch of the other stuff from my collection did make it to set and was on the show. A lot of people ask me, like, hey, do you have any cameos? Did you get any interviews? And I go, nope, but a lot of my toys did.
Yeah, I feel the same way about that Millennium Falcon, which I still have in my office right now. And I just love to look at it, and it sparks so many memories. And how many stories did I create with that Millennium Falcon toy? And then you look at the new Millennium Falcon they put out a couple of years ago, which is like the size of a Volkswagen. And we were happy with this little one from '79 that had like a room and a storage compartment and a cockpit that fit maybe 2 action figures.
That's right. That barely could fit those two.
Yeah. With Chewbacca, you had to really cram him in there to close the cockpit.
Well, now they have the giant, like, 800-piece Lego Millennium Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you mixed up the price with the pieces. It's 5,000 pieces and $800.
That's where I got that number
$800. Oh my goodness. I thought the Millennium Falcon in 1979 being $25 was a king's ransom. Now, I got to ask you this, that you said in a soundbite on your Facebook page that the toy lines featured were chosen because of their rabid fan base.
One of the reasons. That was one of the reasons.
Okay, so then how did you whittle it down to the 4 choices of Star Wars, Barbie, He-Man, and G.I. Joe for the first 4 episodes?
So there were 4 criteria that we used. And just so you know, like, you know, we didn't rent a Cray supercomputer. Like, I did this by my gut. So this was not an exact science, to put it mildly. But it was basically, we wanted toys that were within reason perpetually in production. So they went on sale, and now 30, 40, 50, 60 years later, they're still on sale. And that's pretty accurate for all 8. Then we wanted toys with a rabid fan base, meaning there were conventions, people dressed like the costumes and all that. You know, we wanted that as well. The third thing was I had this vision of like the Mount Rushmore of toys, and I wanted to make sure all the toys we picked would make sense, that if there was a Mount Rushmore of toys, that you wouldn't look at it and be like everyone looks at Teddy Roosevelt and was like, why are you there? I didn't want any Teddy Roosevelts. And then the fourth thing, which was really important, and I feel like this is the thing that gets the least amount of attention, is it had to be a good story. So there were a couple toys we looked at that might have been more iconic, but their story was kind of simple and straightforward and didn't have any twists and turns or didn't have any real interesting people behind them.
Or didn't have a doll that was based on, you know, a weird toy in Europe for Barbie.
You mean like a prostitute?
Yes.
To your point, and you're absolutely right about that, but to my point, like, in addition to that, the people involved with it were Ruth Handler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and here's the thing. We made the right decision making episodes that were 40 to 50 minutes long, but it was really painful to cut a lot of things. And we had a whole 10-minute section just on Ruth Handler that was gut-wrenching to cut. Like, she was the only woman CEO in the United States.
And she was the CEO of Mattel.
Yes.
Wow.
There were literally no other women CEOs. And we had this whole thing about her that we had to cut. But anyway, so when you have people like her and you have a hooker doll turned into a real doll, yes, that gets something greenlit in our minds.
I think that will change the buying patterns of moms after they see this show that, wait a minute, Barbie was based on what? Was there a specific toy or playset that really sparked this whole series?
There wasn't a toy or a playset. The thing that sparked the whole series is that in addition to being a big toy lover, I'm also a history buff. And whenever I learn something, whenever I get excited about something, I like Wikipedia surf and Google surf and everything. And one of the things that I noticed a long time ago was, really, with the exception of Star Wars and Barbie, there's really very little information about these toys. So it was always weird to me that everybody knows G.I. Joe, everybody knows Cobra Commander and Snake Eyes, everybody knows Optimus Prime and Megatron. But like, there's 1,000 books on World War II, there's 500 books on the Vietnam War, but there's like almost nothing. There's like self-published books on half of these things. So that was really the inspiration, was what if I had a real budget and the means to like dig in deep? And, you know, one of the simplest and like inspirations for the whole show was, you know, you always see these documentaries where like, you know, a World War II vet goes back to Normandy and this like 92-year-old dude is walking down the beach being like, I hid over there. The Nazis were shooting from there. And I always was like, it would be interesting to do that, but for like someone who worked at Kenner designing the Millennium Falcon. So, and if you saw the show, which I know you did, then we did that. And like, so when you see that in Star Wars, you know, Jim Swearingen and Corky walking around the deserted former office of Kenner, that was literally the first vision I had for the whole series, was doing that. And then everything came out of that.
I really wanted to watch that first Star Wars episode in slow motion just because I was savoring each and every scene and reenactment. And when you did have those gentlemen walking around the old Kenner offices, my mind was going ballistic, going, right there is where they designed the Millennium Falcon or the Imperial Troop Transport or the TIE Fighters.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's this famous tree at Gettysburg that still has musket balls in it.
Wow.
For so many people, they're like, oh my God, this is like somebody fired this gun and this ball is still in this tree. But for people like us, like what you just said, where the Millennium Falcon was designed is sacred to us. So that's what we did. That's what we were able to do. You know, we went to Japan. We went to the original Takara office where Optimus Prime was designed. We met with a lot of the original people we went to the original offices of Marvel where all the names and all the storylines were designed for G.I. Joe and Transformers. So we really tried to give it a historical foundation, but then we added a lot of comedy and humor so people didn't get bored.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the things that we really loved about your series is that humor in there. And was that snarky tone kind of inspired by TMZ?
And now we return to, hey, what have they been up to?
No, because I'm by the way, no. Second of all, you should see what we cut. Like, my entire career, I have found when people start tearing other people apart or start crying on camera, that's the gold. And that's what you put in your show. This was the first show where we did the opposite. We had former people from big companies start crying on camera, older men in their, 60s, 70s, literally start crying about how they were fired and thrown to the junkyard after blah, blah, blah. And that we cut. We cut everything like that because I wanted to make a positive, fun show, but I also didn't want to make a boring show. So you used the word snarky, and fair enough. I mean, that's an accurate word. But I looked at it just as we just didn't want to take it too seriously. My wife is not into any of this stuff at all. And I really, in my mind, used her as the barometer where if I got to cover something, how do I do it in a way that if my wife was watching this with me and I had nothing to do as a show, she wouldn't leave the room. So and we used humor to try and do that.
I think it worked very well because, like, He-Man, yes, I grew up in that time where all the boys in my elementary school were, like, totally into He-Man. I had no idea what it was and no interest in it at all. But when I was watching the show, I'm like, wow, this is crazy how they created a world and a story, like the toy makers created it, rather than the He-Man toys being from something from a show.
He-Man, and like I was just saying, I never was into He-Man. I bought my first He-Man anything about 5 months ago. So it was the opposite of me for Star Wars or G.I. Joe or Transformers. But He-Man, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but He-Man was on the bubble. We almost didn't do He-Man. And then we did a couple pre-interviews with the people that you saw in the show. And I'm like, whoa, we got to do this story.
Yeah, and then they all had, like, they were all, like, in each other's faces, like, oh, I created it. No, I created it.
which is a perfect example of people thinking they know the history of something. Like, we can talk endlessly about the history of the making of Star Wars, and everyone will have their own points of view. And this show was a fantastic example of you don't know because you weren't there. However, you found the guys who were there, and not only were they there, but each one of them had their own points of view. So which one is correct?
Yeah. No, the lawyer that you see in the Kenner episode, I mean, we spent months trying to find him. Then we spent months trying to get him to do the interview. When we went to Cincinnati, he wasn't even confirmed. And luckily, while we were there, he finally agreed to do it. And, you know, I doubt many, but again, this comes from my history background. I doubt many people were trying to track down lawyers. From doing what I do for a living, I know that lawyers usually have the greatest view to history of anybody at a major company or government.
Was it very hard tracking down these toy designers from 40 years ago?
Some yes, some no. A lot of the toy designers do conventions and do that kind of thing. So, like, they were reasonably easy to find. And again, I know we were talking about Brian Stillman earlier. You know, Brian Stillman joined us from minute one. And, you know, Brian obviously had made his own documentary. He knew the people to talk to, but he also knew the people he wasn't able to get. And he gave us those names. And, you know, he allowed us to very quickly get up and running. And then, like I said, I knew to look for lawyers and business affairs people. And, you know, Mark Pevers, he's the guy who was like, I knocked on every door and everybody said no. Like, he was somebody, like, we didn't know his name initially, but we knew there was somebody in licensing that we would have to find to get the real story. And we found him.
Yeah, Brian Stillman's documentary, Plastic Galaxy, is a great companion piece to your first Star Wars episode.
It really is. Really, like, it goes into the detail that we couldn't get into. So I love it. I met Brian because I read an article about the movie, like, on Yahoo News. And I tracked him down. And then that was probably about 3 years ago.
Wow.
Now, in the Star Wars episode, at the very end, there was a graphic card that said George Lucas declined to be interviewed for this episode.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No, and I'm glad you brought that up because a couple people have complained about it and they felt like we were kind of talking crap about George and, you know, busting his chops a little bit. But that's not why I put it there. I put it there because I wanted the audience to know we tried. Like, you know, the story, I'm sure you would probably agree with me. I don't know for sure, but my entire life, I grew up being told that George Lucas was this genius for keeping all the toy rights. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked while making the movie to find out that he actually got a very small piece. So I knew a lot of people would be surprised, and I didn't want people wondering why we didn't get George's side of the story. And we tried very hard to get him to do it. And we were never told George is not doing your documentary for reason X. We never got that. My guess, I just think I'm saying this to you as somebody who worships the ground he walks on, whose career was inspired by the movie he made, and if I were in his shoes, I think I would do the same thing he did. I think he's just done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he sold the thing. He moved on. He's got an art collection. He's got more money than he ever. Everybody talks about how he got paid $4 billion. He did not get paid $4 billion. He got $4 billion in Disney stock, which conservatively is worth 11 or 12 billion now. So I just think he's done with it. I think he goes to the premieres. Like, I don't even know if he went to the Rogue One premiere. I know he went to Force Awakens, and I know he went to Last Jedi, and he issued the most PC ever comment, a well-made movie. But
he'll show up at premieres, he'll show up at celebration conventions, but when it comes to something like a subject he's talked endlessly about, he'd much rather spend the afternoon with his children and his wife.
Yeah, and I get it. I'd be, by the way, I think he checked out at 60. If I were him, I probably would have checked out at 50 or 45. God love him.
He said everything that he's ever wanted to say. Now it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of moving on, you've just done 4 episodes. So when will we see the next 4 episodes, and what will the subject matter be for those?
The next 4 come out in 3 to 4 months. Ooh. So somewhere between, late March and late April. And it's Transformers, Lego, Hello Kitty, and Star Trek.
Wow.
Ooh,
how did you pick those 4 subjects?
I mean, Transformers,
yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, Transformers has never had a documentary made about the toys.
Right.
Maybe it has, but I'm not aware of it. So that was an easy one. They hit the Mount Rushmore factor easily, and it's a great story, and I don't think the story had been told, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Lego.
Yeah.
And even if there have been documentaries made before, they, in my opinion, none of the ones, and I think I've only seen one, but they didn't get into it felt to me like they were more about like the history or the culture, and didn't get as deep into the story as I would have liked. So we really tried to get the story of how Lego came to be. And Lego's a very interesting toy. It's family owned, so it's not some big corporation. A lot of people don't know this. It's the biggest toy company. It's bigger than Hasbro and Mattel.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that. And it's their own product. So, they don't really license much. So, yes, they license, Star Wars and a couple things, but the majority of their revenue is created in this little bizarre town in the middle of Denmark called Billund, which has, I think 8,000 people that live there, and 7,200 of them work for Lego.
Wow.
So, it's really wild. Hello Kitty was another one that was definitely on the bubble. And we went back and forth pretty aggressively between Hello Kitty and My Little Pony.
I was going to ask about My Little Pony, so good to know.
My Little Pony is a great story, but it has a lot in common with some of the other toys. A. B. It's one of these stories that has a fascinating beginning, but unlike a lot of the other toys, doesn't have as many twists and turns later on. It's still a great story, and if we get a second season, we're definitely doing My Little Pony. But it was a jump ball between My Little Pony and Hello Kitty, and we went with Hello Kitty because it's just a crazy story. I mean, it's just everything about that company is fascinating. And then Star Trek. Yeah, Star Trek. I did the other 3. Star Trek. I'll be completely honest. And again, Star Trek was a jump ball with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Star Trek for me, because I don't know if we're going to get a second season or not. So I'm a huge Trekkie. There have been dozens of documentaries made about Star Trek, none about the toys. And the great thing about the Star Trek toys is that they are the control experiment for Star Wars toys. Star Wars always had George Lucas, a very powerful man, controlling it with tons of influence and tons of quality control. Gene Roddenberry, legally and also financially, did not have that power, and it was just a complete free-for-all mess. And it literally, the rights to Star Trek have changed probably over a dozen times in 50 years, where Star Wars was controlled by two companies. Basically one, if you think about it. It was always Hasbro and Kenner. And, you know, we got all this great Star Trek interviews where they would, like, the Enterprise was landing, or like they'd make blackboards where the Enterprise was upside down, and it was just a crazy. And Gene Roddenberry, again, is also kind of the anti-Lucas, like really, like just kind of screwed a lot of things up, and everybody was working around him. So it was a great story. And again, I'm just being very honest. I was like, I created the show. Netflix is letting me do what I want. I want to Star Trek. We're good.
Yeah, when we saw that your choices, we thought, okay, we can understand Transformers and Lego. I was on the fence about, just because after we had binge watched your 4 episodes, we were in the toy frame of mind. So we went on Netflix, and there were a couple of Lego documentaries. Yeah. So I thought, oh, it's been done, but I want to see how you do it. And then Star Trek, not really sure. However, knowing the style you do, I was very excited to watch them, because I've got no connection to He-Man or G.I.Joe, but I sat there with rapt attention at every frame because I loved your storytelling sensibility.
Thank you. And that is what we risked everything about. So we knew if we got it right, people would trust us. And if we got it wrong, it wouldn't really matter anyway. So, and, you know, if you go on Facebook, you'll see hundreds of people, all dudes, saying, I even watched Barbie, or I didn't watch Barbie, but then I was like, yeah, you know, why not? And then I loved it.
Oh, yeah. You know, I've got no connection to Barbie, but we would not get up when the phone would ring or someone would come to the door. It's like, no, we want to see how this story unfolds.
And for the record, I love your dude voice.
But no, it's all about the storytelling. So, you know, there are things, you know, again, using my wife, who's like the furthest thing from a nerd or a geek you could find, there are things that I'm in. Like, my wife loves, what's it called? Orville. She loves Orville.
Oh, yeah.
Can't stand Star Trek. And it's all about the writing and the storytelling and the characters. And you could argue there's very little difference between Orville and Next Generation.
Absolutely.
One is dead serious with barely any humor. And one is, you know, 65% humor. And by the way, getting more and more serious every episode. I don't know, watching it if you notice that, but it's getting more serious.
Now, we had put out on our Facebook group page that we're going to be talking to you, and of course we got flooded with questions. So I'd like to read a couple of questions that our listeners would like to ask you, one of which comes from Michael Goldtrap, who says, are you going to do a show on Mego action figures? Now, coming from me personally, if you want to do this, I'll give you as much money as you need.
Well, then you should be very excited about our Star Trek episode. Because a huge part of our Star Trek episode is about Mego.
Oh, nice.
And by the way, I'm glad you brought that up, because, I mean, that's something we really tried to do, was have every episode exist on multiple levels. So, like, you might not be like, oh, I love Star Trek, but if you're a Mego fan, then you'll learn, like, I'd say at least a quarter of Star Trek episode is about Mego. We interviewed Marty Abrams 3 times. So, like, we tried to give everybody something they could grab onto with the hope it would pull everybody in and they'd love the whole thing.
If you can do that episode first, release that one first, because knowing this, I can't wait. I
think I would be lynched if we didn't do Transformers first.
Oh. How are they released? Are they going to be released one at a time or binge?
No, all 4 at the same time. Okay. But the first one will on the list will be Transformers.
All right, but you know what? I hope you don't have to watch them in order, because I'm going to go right for that Star Trek, because I've got to see this one on the Mego action figures. Now, Jason Gibner wrote in and asked, in the Star Wars episode opening, was that supposed to be Charlie Lippincott and John Dykstra in the recreation? And how was that recreation of ILM and the Millennium Falcon effect done?
Yeah, by the way, one of my jokes has been I got this entire series made solely to recreate that I we had a budget for the reenactments and literally we had to do 8 reenactments and literally about 60% of the budget went to Star Wars.
Wow.
So I love this question. So the first answer is it's not Charlie Lippincott, it's Jim Swearingen.
Oh.
And yes, it's John Dykstra. The second answer, which I am so excited to answer because I really have not been asked this before, the actual building that was ILM is subdivided into 4 sections. It was 40 years ago, and it is today. In 1975 or whatever, 1973, 74, ILM in that building was the furthest right section. So we filmed in the exact same building, but there's a company there now that makes beautiful signs for like amusement parks and stuff, and their equipment was too heavy to move. So we filmed in the far left section. So it's the same building, but the far left section and not the far right section. And it is, if you're in there, it is identical. So like that brick wall, I went into the real one. And I got a whole tour of the real one. The circuit breakers still have the Sharpie written on it from ILM, where it says like model lights, master power. Like I have pictures of it. So I mean, we're in the same thing, so we're in the same building, but we're not in the same section. Then we built what they built. So they had built that. We had a picture. We literally recreated the picture. So we built the hangar bay from the Death Star. That was completely real. Wow. Like 11 feet long by like 5 feet. So we lit it internally, just like they did. We rented all the same lights and equipment that they were using, not the exact ones, but the same era. And then, and I still can't believe this worked, we put a blast out on Facebook, which at the time I think we had like 5,000 followers. And we said, does anybody have a screen accurate model of the Millennium Falcon? Some guy, I think in Florida, what he had done was he had bought that really big Millennium Falcon that was on sale 10 years ago.
Who did?
This guy we found, I think, in Florida. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. And he painted it and added other model pieces to it to make it look as realistic as possible. So we rented it from him. He shipped it to us. Whoa. By the way, it cost more to ship than what we rented it for. We had it hung up there just like they did with the blue screen rods. And then in post-production, we use computers to make it look even more accurate. So what you're seeing, everything you're seeing is real, except for the Millennium Falcon is probably 50% real, 50% CGI.
Now, in that recreation, which I loved, and I couldn't believe that you had recreated it instead of using stock footage, so I give you so much credit for that. But here's a side note. Hanging above the Millennium Falcon in the Death Star docking bay in the film, there is an Easter egg, which is a Dykstra Flex camera.
Yeah.
That the model makers had put in there just for their own fun.
Aww.
Yeah. Yeah, and reads like a crane.
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, is there any new toy today that you think may have the potential to be one of those nostalgic toys that these older toys, now are?
Yeah, I mean, I think Shopkins is going to be around forever. I don't know about, what's that stupid egg thing that my daughter's obsessed with? Hatchimals or whatever.
Hatchimals.
I could see that being a huge collector, 30, 40 years from now. Those are two in particular. There's a toy line with also a cartoon that no one's heard of for some reason called Dino Trucks. And Dino Trucks is kind of Transformers meets dinosaurs. I could see that absolutely being a big thing 30, 40 years from now.
Now, I've got a question. In the Barbie episode, and I think you know where I'm going with this, What was that thing sitting in the chair right behind former Mattel CEO Jill Barad?
It is artwork. She's a huge art collector, and her office, and I would assume her home and other places, are full of artwork, and that is part of her artwork. That is part of her collection.
Is it like something in a chair, or is it a picture that looks like something in a chair?
It is basically the artwork is the chair and the female form.
Looks like a deflated doll laying back there, and you being on set, did you say to her, can we move that out of frame? Because that's going to be so distracting.
It was very distracting.
One of the things that I also really wanted to do for this show, which I've learned over the course of my career, is, it's very important to shoot people in their natural environment. A great example is I can give you, we interviewed Todd McFarlane, and the camera crew set up before I got there, and I walked in and they had set up this whole beautiful thing in the conference room, which has this huge McFarlane sign and all these beautiful things. And I'm like, did Todd say we have to film here? And they were like, no, we just thought this looked the best. And I looked around in Todd's office, and I just want to say for the record, my office looks like this too. It kind of looked like a bomb went off, or, like there was a windstorm. And like I said, my office looks like that too. So I asked Todd, I'm like, hey man, can we shoot in your office? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So we filmed in his office, and that's where he's going to be the most comfortable. But B, you're showing the audience not what they're expecting, but what it really is. So in Jill's office, that's her office. So listen, did I expect this much controversy? No. Did I think people would notice it? Yes.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, just watch the Barbie episode.
Yeah,
and you'll understand.
And He-Man.
Yeah.
Or look at Kevin Smith's Twitter account, and he asks, what is that? And it took us a while to go, you know what, let's just focus on the story and Barbie and not on this deflated toy in the background. Okay, now moving past that, Eric Warren from our Facebook group also had a question. Were there any surprises you found from the interviews?
I mean, tons, dozens. I mean, I think definitely the biggest surprise was that Lucas, for up until the prequels, was only making 2.5 cents of every dollar. I mean, the way I grew up, I thought he was making 80 to 90 cents per dollar. Mm-hmm. The other probably biggest surprise, I guess two, as you saw in the Barbie episode, the whole thing with her eyes not looking forward.
Right.
Yes.
That blew my mind. I mean, I literally teared up when I heard her say that. I mean, that just blew my mind. And then the other thing in the G.I.Joe episode where nobody thought of having a bad guy until Marvel was like, I think they need to be shooting at somebody. So that was definitely shocking. Transformers, I told you we went to Japan. We learned like none of these characters were connected in the Takara version. So like, Hasbro and Marvel made these guys good guys, these guys bad guys. But the Takara toys were just individuals. So the tape deck didn't interact with the gun, didn't interact with the semi-truck, didn't interact with the Volkswagen Bug. So they just existed separately. And that was also surprising. Another big surprise in Transformers was I always knew they were based on a Japanese toy, but I thought the gap was a year or two, maybe 3. It really was close to 10 years between when Takara started making their toys, like Convoy and Megatron. Like those were all, by the time we had Optimus Prime and Megatron on our shelves here, those were close to 10 years old.
Wow. All right, now, before we wrap things up, let's do a quick round of trivia toy time with you. Let's see how well you really know your toys.
Uh-oh.
Which action figure made a clicking sound when you turned its head in the Star Wars line?
Oh, I can hear it. Oh, this is the kind of thing I'm going to be mad at myself for the rest of my life. Oh, R2-D2.
There you go.
His head turns, and it makes a little clicky sound when he turns.
Woohoo! Ding, ding, ding.
We thought we'd start with a softball question.
I was thinking too hard. I was thinking Medical droid from Empire.
Oh, I know.
FX7?
Yeah.
All right, what is Barbie's full name?
I don't know.
It's Barbara Millicent Roberts.
I did not know that.
Barbie, you're beautiful. You make me feel my Barbie doll is really real.
All right, next question. What game that ties you up in knots got popular after it was seen on The Tonight Show when Johnny Carson played it with Ava Gabor?
Twist.
There you go.
I didn't know that one.
It hasn't always been such a hit. When it came out in 1966, sales were poor.
Red, left, right, yellow, blue, green.
Department store Sears even thought the game was too risque because of all the bodily contact. But then...
The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson and Ava Gabor played Twister on The Tonight Show, and suddenly, lines wrapped around stores.
Wow. All right, what was the first toy ever to be advertised on TV?
Here's a hint. The toy was voiced by Don Rickles in Toy Story.
Oh, that's Mr. Potato Head. I knew that.
Hey, it's Hasbro. Hasbro makes toys. What's new, Hasbro?
Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head with their own cars and trailers. That's what's new. Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head with cars and trailers come in $1 and $2 sizes.
All right, 75 more to go. If you had 6 8-piece Lego bricks, how many different combinations can be configured?
Yeah, I know this too. I don't have it memorized, but it's like 300 million billion. It's like a crazy number.
That's very close. 915,103,765.
Yeah, that's in the episode for sure, yeah.
That's ridiculous. Now, if you think that was just a number that was thrown out there, hoping no one would check, well, Professor of Mathematics Soren Eilers figured it out, as heard here in a Lego Brickumentary.
Soren saw a display dedicated to the original patent filed by Ola's son, Gottfried. Gottfried was asked by the patent officer, how many ways can you put together 6 of these bricks?
And he says something like, we're still working on it, but when I left home, we had 102,981,000 or something like that. And so I was wondering how they computed that number because it seemed to be a difficult mathematical problem. What Lego had done was to just count the towers where you put the things on top of each other. Whereas if I have a building that is sort of low and wide, I have a lot of options for the final one. Of course, I tried to attack this with theory, but I didn't get anywhere. So essentially, all that I could think of doing was to ask a computer. In fact, my program was very inefficient. It took me a week to compute this number. The correct number is quite a lot higher. The correct number is 915,103,765.
That's right.
In 1999, what hamster owl-looking toy was banned from NSA headquarters in Maryland for fear they would overhear top-secret conversations and then repeat them?
Furby?
Ding, 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 ding. Furby is correct. But now, to clear up the myth, Furbies never could repeat back what they heard. They were just programmed with phrases and words, and they only had 100 words in their vocabulary. But several intelligence agencies banned them just to be on the safe side.
Ha!
That's funny.
All right, and the final question. In 2004, why did Barbie and Ken split up?
I don't know.
We don't know either. We thought you would know.
Yeah. They thought Barbie would be more popular single? No, I'm serious. I mean, that really is my answer. Because there were a couple things like that over the years that went on. And, I mean, that would definitely be my guess, that they just were like, she should be seeing other guys.
That was a great addition to your Barbie episode, where they first introduced her in all these wedding gowns to tell little girls, hey, you know what, there's a doll you can relate with because sooner or later you'll be getting married and you can be like Barbie. And then Mattel figured, wait a minute, we can't have her tied down. She's going to be out there on the town.
Yeah.
And boom, went through the roof for their sales.
It all started at the dance. Barbie, the famous teenage fashion model doll by Mattel, felt that this was to be a special night. And then it happened. She met Ken.
Break my heart, say you love me again.
And somehow she knew that she and Ken would be going together. So now Mattel brings you Ken, Barbie's boyfriend.
Walked out the door and walked out of my life.
With a complete wardrobe of perfectly tailored clothes of unmatched quality.
It's over. You can all go home. It's over.
I don't believe you would do this to me, Barbie. I loved you.
Brian, thank you so much for coming on Skywalking through Neverland and telling us all about the making of the toys that made us and what you have in store for the future. And I just can't tell you how excited I am for this Mego episode.
Thank you both very much. Really appreciate it. This was fun.
Awesome. And you know what? If our Skywalkers want to get a hold of you, where can they find you on social media?
The main easiest way is Instagram, because you can talk to me on Instagram and there's no limit. I'm usually maxed out on Facebook. For some reason, you can only have 5,000 friends.
Yeah.
I would say definitely Instagram. It's my name.
Okay.
Brian Volk-Weiss.
You got it.
VOLK-WEISS.
Is there a dash on Instagram?
I believe so.
Okay.
Well, hold on.
All right, while you're looking that up, I got to tell all the Skywalkers, like we've been referring during the show, you've got to go to the Toys That Made Us Facebook group page. It's not a group, it's more of a
page.
It's a page.
Yes.
With so many great outtakes and anecdotes and commercials.
No hyphen on Instagram.
No hyphen, so just VOLKWEISS.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Brian, once again, thank you very much. And we look forward to is it a season or a wave or a volume of the Toys That Made Us?
We got 4 more, which is the second half of season 1. And hopefully we'll be lucky and get to make more if these first 8 did well.
Nice.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, keep on sharing it and follow Brian on Instagram.
And may the toyetic force be with you.
Thank you both very much.
It's the toys that made us. The toys that made us is here.
Big thanks to Rob Dellinger for expertly recreating that Kenner Star Wars toy commercial music for that segment. We put it out there, and he did it.
That's
I got
awesome.
nostalgic just listening to what Rob came up with.
And it's totally an earworm. It's stuck in my head.
And big thanks to BuzzFeed for the trivia information. Now, like Brian was saying, there was some great stuff left on the cutting room floor. Here is an outtake from the Star Wars episode where they go into the Droids toy line.
And you can find more great clips like that on the Toys That Made Us Facebook page.
Droids was one of the last series of figures Kenner released, 1985. It was related to Nelvana's cartoon called Droids. And in 1986, there was to be a second series. Part of that second series was a character named Vlix.
Show me a droid that can do that.
Now, all those figures in the second series were never made, Vlix included, in the United States. But in the late 80s, a company called Glassleet in Brazil acquired the molds for some of those figures and produced a Droids line. And mysteriously, Vlix ended up being released in Brazil. So this figure that had been canceled and never released in the States got released in Brazil. So obviously for collectors, that's something that just puts them into overdrive because they want to find this rare Brazilian figure.
Hasbro's accessories for Vlix that were never made line is finally here.
As the Droids and Ewosh lines were dying down for the 86, they started to task a lot of the internal artists at Kenner to come up with different conceptual ideas for what they called the Droids Companions. You can see it's called the Mobile Weapons Droid. The play value might be to accessorize your Vlix action figure, right? Unfortunately, this never came to production because by that point, it was done.
Get yours today.
This is a handmade piece. This is the only one in existence.
Don't worry about it then.
Shout-outs, Skywalker shout-outs. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who was tweeted out? Shout out. Who was photobombed? Shout out. Who was shared a post? Shout out.
All right, we're going to start with Twitter, where we go to William Magalio, who is at Darth Tuba, and he shared with us a video of his pet porg at Hollywood Studios. And he's showing the little pet porg like he's in the video, and Chewie, who's walking down the street with Rey, comes over to sniff him. And so Darth Tuba tweets, our Porg friend got a little love from Chewie while in Disney. Or was Chewie tasting him?
Yeah, I don't think Chewie was loving that Porg. I think he was just putting him on the back burner for later on.
Right? I know. It was very cute. So we love that, Darth Tuba. Now, also on Twitter, this past week, there's been a lot of fun sharing of podcasts that people have been listening to. And both Trisha Barr at Fangirl Cantina and Adam Bray at author Adam Bray mentioned us in their list of cool Star Wars podcasts I listened to this week. So thank you guys so much for your plug.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, we're going to head to our Facebook group, which is an awesome group where we all get to know each other. Listeners and Skywalkers get to know each other, not just us. And here, it was where Amanda Bond posted, the Yub Yub Squawk Squawk song was something I never knew I needed in my life, but now I'm hooked. And she is referring to our previous episode, 197, where you had put together the Yub Yub and the Squawk Squawk of the Porgs into one song.
Well, Amanda, if you didn't get enough of it, let's hear it again.
You're welcome. Okay, Skywalkers. Well, guess what? It's time for the Skywalker of the Week.
The first for 2018.
It's Patrick Izzo. It's Patrick Izzo. Patrick Izzo.
Well, congratulations to our good friend Patrick Izzo. This has been very long overdue. Now, when we were just in Newton, Mass, I had posted a picture of myself in front of the store called the Oakley Spa, which I never called Oakley Spa as a kid. I called it John's or Mickey's because those were the owners. And I had bought a Star Wars magazine and went out front when you got a picture of me holding that Star Wars magazine because that's where I got all my comics and Topps cards and magazines when I was a kid.
Wow.
So it was one of those, the circle is now complete moments.
Aww.
But then Patrick Izzo, he posted in our thread, didn't you accidentally walk home from there with a Star Wars comic and forget to pay? Which was a great callback to one of our recent classic Marvel Star Wars comics episodes.
Wow.
Where we were talking about those spinner racks. And how I would see the Star Wars logo and pick up the comic book and just start reading. And my mind would just be transported into the story and I would forget to pay. And
you just like walk out with it.
Yeah. So, good callback, Patrick. And that's what earned you the Skywalker of the Week. As composed by Rob Dellinger.
The John Williams of podcasting.
Boy, Rob is hitting it out of the park this week.
I know. So, Skywalkers, if you want to be the Skywalker of the Week and have your own jingle as composed by Rob Dellinger, then please just share, podcasts you're listening to. Maybe give us a little plug. Just share it on your social media and tag us in your post, and we will take note. Well, that wraps up episode 198 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
We'd like to thank Brian Volk-Weiss and, of course, all of you Skywalkers who listen every single week, and those of you who are watching live on YouTube and Facebook right now.
Our subscribers on YouTube just keep jumping up every week.
Yes. I think we're at like 930 something now, and so we're very, very close to 1,000 subscribers, which is super exciting. So please keep sharing our show there. You can head over and subscribe, youtube.com/Skywalking Through Neverland.
So thanks for subscribing and sharing with a friend. Now, speaking of sharing with a friend, we want to thank our friends over there at RetroZap.com for all their great posts and articles and podcasts over there on their network, like Brews and Blasters,
Beltway Banthas,
the Deucecast Movie Show,
Starship Sabers and Scoundrels,
Kanata's Castle,
Techno Retro Dads,
and Talking Apes TV, which we're going to put out a new episode on February the 9th.
Ooh.
Which marks what?
something in talking in apes lore?
The 50th anniversary of Planet of the Apes.
Whoa! 50 years.
50 years of Planet of the Apes. And we're going to be talking with our good friend Bobby Porter.
Oh, yay!
Who's got so many Planet of the Apes stories since he was in Battle for the Planet of the Apes and several episodes of the TV series.
Wow.
Yeah, and just an all-around fun guy. Just pretty much worked on every single film and TV show out there.
Yay. All right, guys. Well, you can also find Skywalking Through Neverland at JediNews.co.uk and BanthaTracks.com. And if you want to get a hold of us during the week, we are on social media. We are at Skywalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram. Richard, you are at Sith Rich, and I am at Jedi Tink, where I share lots of pictures of my lovely Forces of Destiny ladies. And if you guys see any other Forces of Destiny out that are in the second wave, please, please, please tweet at me at Jedi Tink, because I want to know. All right, you can also join our Facebook group, where we have lots of lovely Skywalkers and no drama llamas.
Not at all. Not whatsoever.
You can join that group by heading to Facebook and searching Skywalking Through Neverland group. You can request to join and make sure you answer the 2 questions that pop up, or we will not let you in.
Speaking of the drama llama, we just got a 1-star review on iTunes because we're too positive.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me?
Right now in Star Wars fandom, isn't that what we need?
Yeah.
So you know what? If that's what it takes, then give us all the 1 stars you have. Because we're not going to change.
I keep on saying that we're too positive, because, yeah, we'll screenshot that. All right. Now stay tuned, Skywalkers, for little bits of conversation that didn't quite make it into the show. And those are going to be right after the credits, where some of our loopy discussions can be found.
All right, with that, always remember
to keep it positive and
Neverland on Alderaan.
Some imagination, huh?
To our Skywalkers and Tweetwalkers, thanks for listening. Skywalking Through Neverland is created and produced by Richard and Sarah Woloski. Original music by Rob Dellinger. Creative consultant Mark Augushowitz. Technical advisor Peter Heitman. Facebook administrators Donald Wicks, Joey Pittman, and Norma Heitman.
Skywalking Through Neverland is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Any sounds, music, and clips played during this podcast are the property of their copyright holders. All original content is property of Skywalking Through Neverland, all rights reserved. Sorry, had to be said. Hey, Skywalkers! Hey, do you get a... Sorry, when I'm fighting a cold.
He is.
Hey, Skywalkers! Hey, do you get a nostalgic... Not a nostalgic. Alright, one more time. Sorry. Still in kind of a haze
fog.
here. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get sick all through December, and it just hit me now. All right, take 15.
So, like, for example, and I didn't know this, maybe you guys do, I don't know. Do you know all those characters in Sanrio? Like, Kapoki or whatever. Do you know none of them interact with each other?
Well, that's not very American, where everything connects within that same universe.
Yeah, like they're all in separate worlds.
All right, Disney Imagineer Ken Force, he specialized in the parks animatronic figures. What animated storytelling toy did he create to use and using that similar technology?
Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah!
Ding, 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 ding.
I had one of those.
All right, with that, let's go now to the shout-out. Oh, so sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, a lot of editing on this one.
I'm sorry. Wow.
I've been holding that one for 20 minutes.
I know. All right. Yay! We did it.